My name is Meenakshi Pandya-Rajan.
And what school do you go to and what's your major?
I go to University of California, San Diego. I am a double major in neuroscience and physiology as well as economics.
That's cool. So in college, do you do any extracurriculars outside of your academic coursework?
I'm the president of an organization called Phi Beta Lambda. We're the college division of FBLA, which you guys have at your high school. I'm also the executive liaison for an organization called Pre-Meds Without Borders, which is a pre-medical service organization. So Phi Beta Lambda is very similar to FBLA. We do a lot of competitions, but we also do a lot of hands-on job-related training. So we do a lot of resume help, we do LinkedIn workshops, we do one-on-one networking. We speak to a lot of people from the corporate field, investment bankers, consultants. And then over in Pre-Meds Without Borders, a lot of what we do is we physically go out to underserved communities in the San Diego area. Right now we're working very closely with the Syrian refugee population. We offer English tutoring as well as homework help to the younger children, as well as conversational English practice and tutoring help for older adults and the young adults.
It's really interesting. So a little bit about your high school. What high school did you go to?
I went to Doherty Valley.
It's interesting, and because we all go there anyway. What extracurriculars did you do in high school, and can you talk a little bit about the courses that you took in high school?
So in high school, I was in CSF all 4 years. I did 2 years of NHS. My second year, I was the secretary. I did a handful of other clubs here and there, but in terms of organizations on campus, one of the things about Doherty is that a lot of our organizations tend to be oriented towards a very specific career goal or an academic goal, which is interesting, but it didn't really help me. It didn't really help develop me as a person. So a lot of those were just ways that I gained exposure to people, gained practice with working towards certain fields. The things I did out of interest, I worked at the library from 6th grade until I graduated. The San Ramon Library, which was a really great experience because that was one of the things that people would ask me a lot about. It is not usual that people have been working at the library from middle school, but that was something I was passionate about. It was also, pretty interesting to talk about because I was very familiar with the Dewey Decimal System. I was very familiar with organizational systems outside of just a theoretical capacity. And then in terms of course load, I took the most AP courses my senior year, I believe. I took comparative government and the English class that goes with it. I took AP economics, which is where I really decided that I wanted to study economics in college. I took BC, and then I think I took honors physics my senior year because I think that was the first time they had offered it. So, and then honors anatomy and physiology. But if there are any specific courses that you guys want me to talk about,
did you think that there was one course in particular that you felt was valuable? I know you talked about economics, but did you think there was a science course or a teacher that really made an impact on you?
So the difference here, I think, from a lot more traditional answers that you'll get is I like science, and I'm good at science, but the things that tend to make an impact on me are the things that are more in the social science field. I would say that having, I'm pretty sure Parks and Carlin still teach CompGov and International Lit, right? Do you guys know?
Actually, you're taking CompGov next year. No, I'm taking regular AP. I know McDougal teaches.
Yeah, sorry, she got married, so McDougal,
yeah.
she was still planning her wedding the year she was teaching us. So yeah, McDougal and Parks were two of the teachers that had the biggest impact on me just because a lot of what we learn, and because San Ramon is such a sheltered community, a lot of what we learn, we don't really see it put into practice, right? And getting to see or understand the real world effects of some of the things that we were learning really made an impact on helping me decide, what I wanted to do, which was help people. And obviously everyone who wants to be a doctor says, I want to help people, yada, yada, yada. But when I originally, walking into college, my big goal was that I want to work for Doctors Without Borders. And a big part of that was because I got to see the lives and the stories of people outside of not just a small community of San Ramon, but even the bigger community of just California or the United States, getting to see an international level impact. And that was something that mattered a lot to me. But in terms of more scientific coursework, I would say AP Biology was really great. I had Basu for it, and she's a wonderful teacher. For one thing, it helped me skip all the entry-level biology courses. And the other thing is that Doherty, in my experience, and I've been told my experience is a little bit different from other people just because I had pretty much excellent teachers the whole way through. And I learned a lot in that class that I was able to apply even in my later classes, even in my higher level classes. I just took a course on diseases of the human brain, and some of the topics that we touched upon, some of the diseases that we talked upon, like prion diseases, were things we had already addressed to some degree in the AP Biology class. So it helped me walk into my courses, even my higher level courses, with a higher degree of understanding than most other people.
And so, just like out of high school, like I know a lot of people have questions, like how do you prepare for a pre-med path? And sometimes, like if you do change to like go a different direction, or like how do you kind of like prepare academically, and how do you prepare like if you do want to change? Because I know it's a long path, and people once they get to college, like they do change their mind.
One of the easiest things to do is find a group of people who are also aiming for that sort of same career path. That can be a mixed result. Very often, actually, that tends to steer people away from wanting to be a pre-med student at all. But joining organizations on campus, like there are fraternities, Phi Delta Epsilon is a pre-med fraternity. And then there are also obviously pre-med organizations that are non-Greek life associated, which like mine, Pre-Med Without Borders, is one. At our school, we have AMSA, which is, I think, Asian American medical students. Things like that. So joining an organization is really helpful. And then obviously it's putting yourself out there, applying to scribe jobs, applying to hospital internships, sitting down and speaking to any of your professors in the biological field, trying to get a research job, which with one of them is also really helpful. But I mean, in terms of preparation, it's the same thing. Everyone's going to tell you about the same thing. It's boosting up your resume. It is making sure you have good grades. It is making sure you have solid connections. It is making sure you have an engaging story to tell. And I think that is the most difficult thing. It's definitely one of the more lacking things that I've found in a lot of people who want to be doctors is you sit down and you ask them, why did you want to be a doctor? And a lot of them say, well, I wanted to be a doctor because I want to help people because my aunt was in the hospital and like doctors saved her life. That's cool, but everyone has an aunt or an uncle or whatever who has been in the hospital where doctors saved their lives. That's not an engaging story to tell. And I think that is one of the most important things that people need to consider because only like less than 50% of people who apply to medical school get admitted to a medical school. Like hundreds of thousands of people apply. And almost all of them have the same thing to say. So the difference between you getting in and not getting in to even to medical school. Now, this isn't just the difference between like a top 10 to a bottom 10 kind of school. Just even the difference to getting into medical school is understanding your motivations for why you want to be a doctor. Right? Because there are easier ways to make money. There are shorter ways to make money. There are definitely easier ways to help people. There are different ways to help people, things that make just as big of an impact. So I would say really using your time in whatever way necessary to figure out why it is that you want to be a doctor.
And when it comes to like medical schools, how do you like, for a lot of people, we're going into senior year, we're doing college apps, like how do you know which school is right for you? And what do you think like people should be looking for when they're looking at schools?
So this is a complicated question to answer because I think everyone values something differently. This is a question I've been trying to answer as well because my brother's starting that college application process. For me, one of the big things was just how the campus felt and the opportunities I would have on the campus. I picked UC San Diego because they have a lot of research opportunities. I have been working in a lab since the end of my freshman year, and that is not a position I would have been able to get nearly anywhere else. I mean, a good deal of it was luck, but a lot of it is due to the fact that they have so many research positions open and they have so many professors willing to take on people for those research positions. So that was something that really mattered to me. Location also is another thing that really matters, that I would sit down and actually think about what kind of city you want to live in, because like a lot of this sounds like the more mechanical stuff, but it is very important because you don't want to be in your third year and then realize, I wish I had lived in a smaller city or in a bigger city. For a lot of us, going to school in a place like New York or LA sounds really glamorous, and then we get there and it just moves too fast for us. On the flip side, there are people who go to like UIUC is in the middle of nowhere. It's a lovely school. It's an amazing school, but it's in the middle of nowhere, right? It's a very much a college town. It's not vibrant in the way LA or New York would be. For some people that works, but I've also had friends who have gone to colleges like that and like halfway through their freshman year, they're like, I can't do it. Like there's not enough people, there's not enough excitement here. So understanding what kind of a place you want to live in is really important. And then I would look at what other students have to say about each of their campuses. Obviously, you're going to get whatever campus you go to. Literally, any college you go to, you are always going to get a handful of kids like standing and watching the college tours going, don't go here, there's too many exams. But that's something that's true for all of them. But sitting down, looking at maybe a list of their organizations, like what do the organizations tend to lean towards? Are they all academically centered, or are there a lot of like more fun organizations that are centered around people's interests? Do the students talk to one another on campus? Is the campus large and widespread? Is that something you would like, or do you want a smaller campus where you can get everything done and then leave? Other important things to look at: are you going to have housing for all 4 years? Do you want to live on campus for all 4 years? Because living on campus has its ups and its downs, right? Living on campus means it's easy to get to class, it's easy to grab a meal, but it also means that you don't have a separation between your home life and your school life, and that can really get on you sometimes. So that's important to think about. Any of the professors, I would look up a few professors. I would look up what research they're doing. And if you find professors or you find research that you're really interested in at a specific campus, I would, for one, include that in your application essay, and then two, strongly pursue that kind of college. If you don't find yourself clicking with any of the things that a campus is advertising, but you want to go there just because that's what people say is a prestigious school, I wouldn't recommend it. When it comes down to it, where you go to undergrad really does not matter. And that's something you don't understand until you join. Where you go for your undergraduate degree does not matter, especially if you are planning to go to med school. It really doesn't matter. At that point, what matters is what you do there. So that would be my most important advice that I can give you is it does not matter where you study. What matters is what you do there.
And then shifting back to you, so what's a typical day for you?
So shifts quarter by quarter. But this last quarter, a typical day for me is I lived very far off campus this past year, so I would come to campus pretty early in the mornings, about 8:30 or so. I would have classes. In between, I would be at the library, and then I would spend a few hours at my lab. I'm working on a big project right now that we're hoping to get finished so that I can have it published by the end of my senior year. Publish in a journal or something, and then I can move on to a new paper when I do my master's. So I do a couple hours in the lab, and then I usually have some more afternoon, evening-ish classes. And then my nights are usually the Phi Beta Lambda meetings. And we have our organization-wide meetings. We have the executive board meetings. I had a lot of transitional stuff I have to do as president. So that's typically what a school day is like. It's an all-day thing. It's very much, I spend about 12 hours on campus usually, which can be a lot. But luckily I don't have a job, so I don't have that added stress. The only job I have is my lab position, which because of my PI is very flexible on the hours. I can go in and come out whenever I want because I'm running my own project. But yeah.
And then, okay, so what are your future goals?
My future goals, so right now I am going to be, I'm in the process of preparing for my master's degree, which, like I said, I work in a lab. I work in the clinical physiology and orthopedic surgery department under Dr. Hargens, and what I am planning to do is do my master's in that same lab. I am currently working with a lot of astronauts and stuff. It's very cool. A lot of things that we study include the effects of microgravity on the human body. But my plans after that are to go into something like healthcare consulting, something in the consulting field. I'm specifically looking at healthcare right now, maybe working at a place like Triage, which is centered in San Francisco, actually. Or working in the healthcare department at Deloitte, which I've been talking to a few people there.
And then lastly, if you were to do high school again, is there anything you'd do differently?
I think I would probably worry less about doing my homework. I spent a lot of time trying to get a lot of it perfect, and that doesn't really matter because it's more what you learn and how you learn from it. So I personally don't learn from things like repetition or doing homework, right? That was one of the funny things is I never read my textbook in CompGov. Mr. Parks used to get mad at me for it, but I never read my textbook or do the notes because I learned much better in the lecture format or from a discussion-based format. And so I wish I'd kind of just latched onto that and just stuck with that instead of worrying over getting minute details in the homework right. Instead of doing it the way I was supposed to do it, finding whatever was most comfortable for me and just actually fine-tuning that method. Because I've had to do a lot of that fine-tuning in college, and that's a much rougher environment because you don't have the same guidance that you do in high school. And then the other thing I wish I'd done differently is I wish I'd taken a little bit more time off for myself. Because there's a lot of things that you only get a chance to do in high school, right? When you're living at home and you don't really have to worry about rent and stuff like that. But, I've gotten a chance to do a lot of that in college, so it's not that I regret it. It's just I wish I had spent a little bit more time doing those sort of quote-unquote dumb high school things in high school.
All right, that's it. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
joining me.